Welcome back to East Coast DNA. It's been a long summer, heading up to festivals, and it's kind of the end of summer for a lot of people now that we're past the Labor Day long weekend. But I noticed that I didn't take advantage of doing the outdoor interviews that I had done last year. So for today, we have one of our younger guests. We have local artist Liam Thomson here. So welcome, Liam, and thanks for sitting outside with me this evening.
It's awesome. Thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it.
So now yourself, we had a quick little chat just as we were setting up here today too.
Yep.
I do want to give a quick shout out, and I apologize up front because you probably don't want me to do this part, but quick shout out to your mom.
Oh, yeah. Huge.
Because through the pandemic, she was doing all of those live videos, the Ultimate Online Kitchen Party, and that was huge for our area.
Yep.
So
ECMAs and all that.
definitely got to acknowledge that. Not that that's the only thing that she does for the local music community, but I know she's a huge supporter. Just worked with her down at the Jubilee Music Festival there too. So just wanted to give a shout out for the support out there. It's appreciated and recognized. And now for yourself, speaking of recognized, I'm aware of who you are since you're quite a bit shorter than you are these days. So where I'm a music fan that's been in Pictou County primarily most of my life here, I'm familiar with a lot of artists that will be playing like local farmers markets and community events down at Glasgow Square and the other 5 towns that make up Pictou County. So you are somebody that was involved in the local music scene at a very young age, and I've seen you involved in a couple different projects.
Yep.
I'd mentioned when you were coming in, I remember you being in Hangman.
Oh, yeah. That was a long time ago. But
Yeah.
Still something in the back burner that could pop up at any given time. Hint, hint.
That's something for us to keep an eye on
Yes,
for sure.
for sure. Yeah.
And another project that was more recent, East Coast DNA had done some coverage of the Jubilee leading up to, had a Battle of the Bands, and you were in one of the bands that was there as well.
Yep.
So the Winners was the band created for the Battle of the Bands.
Yeah.
Now you had a large lineup. This is one I want to dig into a little bit.
Yep.
The people that were on stage with you for that performance initially at the Battle of the Bands, you had a lot of people up there with you. Now, are some of those people your bandmates from Hangman as well?
No, actually, it's kind of weird because we all met at different times. We all met in different places. I met the drummer Ethan in middle school. We've actually been friends for a while. And the keyboard player Neil Daly. I think I just met him this year.
Yeah.
Actually, at NRHS. Just kind of through hanging out in the music room and doing all that stuff. And we all just started kind of jamming together until Miss Alcorn, Robin Alcorn, introduced us to this kind of event thing where we would go on stage and battle other bands. So we were kind of just like, we were thinking about it. We were like, maybe we could do a few songs here, but we need a backup singer. And we actually met our backup singer Trinity through the Descendants musical, which I was in.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fun.
She was the fairy godmother.
And quick shout out to Robin too. That
Yes.
Alcorn family's another
Oh, yeah.
huge family for supporting local music and creating the local music. Definitely, that's a generational thing there too.
Yeah.
So now, outside of that, you did end up doing a performance at the Jubilee for Carlton's Community Bash.
Yep.
It was scaled down a little bit. It was just a couple of years up there.
2-piece. Yep.
So that project itself, is that something else that we may see pop back up in some formation in the future?
It's definitely a possibility. We don't have any concrete plans yet, especially with where everyone's at this point. So our backup singer is in, I think, Montreal for film school.
Okay.
Really cool. And our keyboard player just got back from vacation and he's going back to school soon. So it's definitely a possibility, but it's not any concrete plan yet.
And now I'm kind of curious, given the ages where I know of you being very small, are you guys all in like the high school or college age?
Yeah, I think
like you're kind of at the cusp where you're leaving high school, going college.
3 of us are actually just graduating.
Okay.
This past year, and our keyboard player, the youngest, is going into his grade 12 year.
Okay,
As
there you go.
I think he's the school president or something like that.
Wow,
It's pretty cool,
amazing.
yeah.
That is historically for bands that I've followed. That is a rocky time to try to keep a band together
for
because there's so many life events happening. It's not just regular day-to-day stuff. Like you're having major life events happening on a regular basis. So I'm curious now with all of that is something that's potentially going to rear its head again. You've also been able to, throughout all this, maintain somewhat of a solo career, I guess, for lack of a better term, where you've started to build a little bit of a repertoire.
Sure.
And earlier this year, you actually released your debut.
Yeah. So Vices released on the day that I graduated high school, and I was kind of building up to it for a long time. There were a bunch of singles that I released since as far back as like 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So me and my buddy Keenan from Hangman actually were working on a different song than that. And then that one got scrapped when I think my computer crashed or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was just technical difficulties kind of pushing everything back. And then we finally got this one song out called Use. And that was kind of where this whole idea of an album started. So we were kind of brainstorming, and I was like, what if I like made more songs like this and then kind of compiled them together and released single after single and then had a big giant push at the end where it was all just new stuff. So that's kind of what we did with Vices.
Amazing. And now it's been a few months since you've had that out.
Yep.
So in order to support that, have you been able to do local performances of that material?
I've done a couple shows around. I did one at Shoebox not that long ago, and with the winners I've kind of sprinkled in some original stuff with that.
Mm-hmm.
A big thing with the winners is that we like to kind of improvise on stage. So if we're not really into whatever song's next on the set list, we'll just be like, hey, we could do some like jazzy funk country stuff right now, and it'd be kind of tight.
There's a lot of bands that would be near impossible to do, and I know a lot of established acts definitely have to practice to get their set down, especially when you're doing set after set. But I do know that outside of Pictou County, especially when I'm covering Nova Scotia Community College program bands, that seems to be the kind of fluidity that they bring to their sets. And it seems like a lot of the kind of musical influence that you bring to the table with those projects. And I'm sure that has a lot to do with inspiration from the women that we've already given shout-outs to on this.
For sure. 100%.
But definitely that's a Halifax sound that I found the last couple years for people in your age bracket. It's probably becoming more and more common for live performances to have those sounds and to have that kind of fluidity in a set where it's kind of it's bringing a little bit of the jazz improvisational style to the more pop rock music.
So it's kind of just like the connection that you have with the people that you're on stage with.
Yeah.
So if you practice a lot and you're spending a lot of time with them, you're gonna have the same kind of ideas as them. So if you're even just like you're playing one groove, and then this actually happened at a show we did at the Wellness Center a couple months back. We did this one song and it lasted like 30 minutes because we were just switching the genre, switching the key, and it was all so coordinated because we would just like it's almost like so you can hear where it's going and you kind of feel that and flow through it with your own kind of ideas.
I will say if you're going to be recording these, that's a little much to listen to.
30 minutes of jazz, country, funk fusion.
Yeah, I enjoy it live. I remember in my earlier days of going to live acts, bands like Jimmy Swift Band would do something like that, and you just sit there mesmerized for like 20 minutes just listening to like a repetitive pattern with a couple little nuances added in there. But like an old live album by Led Zeppelin, that song remains the same. They do have like a half-hour track on there. That's awesome, but I cannot put on a pre-recorded thing like that and just sit there for that long of a time.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's kind of different when you're in the moment and you're actually there watching all these things going on, but like it's different when you're hearing it after it's already been recorded and you don't know what tweaks have gone on to kind of make it more polished. I think the unpolished part of it is what makes it so special live, because it's just kind of like you're seeing everybody feeling their instrument and they're all just kind of into it on the same wavelength. Yeah, it's kind of just cool to watch.
The differences between the recorded stuff and the live stuff do give people different flavors.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, what would you say is the strengths of the recorded material since you have a debut album out there already?
I think the strengths of having something actually recorded is that you can, like, the whole idea of recording something is just to put out your best version of that.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's like different than what you would do live usually, it's kind of just putting everything that you possibly can into one track and making it sound just as good as you possibly can. Just throw one good thing after another and then try to make it perfect. But the thing about live stuff is that it's being done in the moment, so it's kind of just all your soul being put into it.
Yeah.
It's more soulful when you're seeing it live, and it's more soulful when you're playing it live, I find.
And I guess to a degree too, there's that connection with the audience that you don't necessarily bring into a recording studio.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
To your point, if you're hanging out with your bandmates and the people that you're working with, you get that kind of a loose vibe as you go along, and you can bring that into the recording.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
yeah, it is interesting to kind of see the different perspectives on what one song can sound like in those two different aspects.
So actually a good example of that is Solstice, the last single that I did before I put out the album.
Mm-hmm.
I had like this crazy bass line. The whole thing kind of just hangs on this bass line. There's no real chord progression. But when it came to actually performing that solo, I had to come up with this like some way to convey what I was trying to do on the bass, because I couldn't just do a walking bass line the entire time and also sing and do all the rest of the stuff I needed to do. So I just kind of redid it in this like almost kind of Stevie Ray Vaughan like 70s swagger kind of thing, where it was just like funk mixed with some like soul elements, and it all just kind of blends together to make it feel the same, but it's also a completely different sound than if you listen to the actual recording.
And so it sounds like you like to experiment and tinker quite a bit with sounds in general, and you are multifaceted in that you've been playing for quite a while, so you have a few different instruments that you've mastered over the years.
I wouldn't say mastered, but there's a few instruments that I'm really comfortable just hopping on and playing whatever.
So on top of that, vocally, you have had some vocal training then too, being that you've mentioned a couple people. I'm assuming that they would have done that with you.
So my mom actually was a vocal coach at one point, so I kind of learned from a young age, just like picking up stuff that she'd done and just like kind of watching and like bringing that in.
Absolutely.
And then there was the first actual, like, I guess really training session for vocals that I had was during the Descendants musical, when I would go in for almost like workshops with Madame Cameron.
Okay.
And we would just kind of go over stuff like technique and all that. But another big one would be even just like watching Robin, like Miss Alcorn, performing. Like you can see that it's not just like technique, it's also soul. So I kind of try to put more of that into it than thinking about the technique. So it's more like just do and don't think, which is kind of my MO, I guess.
It seems to be working for you, and I mean it works for your role models out there as well. So I mean, obviously that's the way to go. So now outside of that, since you have that creative mind that likes to play around, I'm assuming that even though you have your debut out, that's probably not enough. You're still writing.
Oh no. Yeah.
So what's next from Liam?
Next, I'm actually working on a 5 or maybe 6 song EP, and it's gonna be called Dust to Dust. So it's all about like having different thoughts, and then each one is like a song. So it's more of a personal kind of story than Vices would have been. So Vices was like about this one guy who didn't really exist, and it was just his life story.
Sure.
These are all interconnected pieces of the same story, where it's this it's almost like a concept album where it's about one thing, but each song kind of tells a different aspect of the story from a different viewpoint, or like a different part of his life.
And now to go along with this material, I know that you're just kind of getting started off with some releasing recordings.
Yeah.
So is there any type of visual element that you're putting along with it? Music videos coming along or anything like that?
Well, I was kind of working on some music videos for the last album. I actually put out one for Solstice, which I think really helped with the boosting that to get to where it was. That's actually, before Vices, was my most streamed song by, I think, 2,000 streams or something like
Okay.
that. So that one did really good, and I was really proud of it. But for this one, I actually wanted to try my hand at directing and acting. So I was going to do a little short film where each song would have its own kind of music video, but they'd all be part of one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually have a filmer named Zach Cassidy who he does all my music videos and stuff like that. He's great, and I was thinking about doing some kind of the same thing because there's a bunch of scrap material that we didn't get to use for like the whole Vices rollout, and kind of even incorporating some of that into what I'm about to do would be pretty cool for like a short film, basically.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. And
Yeah.
I like the interconnectivity of kind of recycling unused materials so that you kind of have a fluidity that goes between the projects as well.
Well, as much as like all the stories are about different things, like they're not all true stories. At a level, they're all kind of about me and about different parts of my life that I'm experiencing. So that's kind of like, I like to try and throw different bits of me into my music just to make it more personal, so that when I listen to it, it's like I'm listening to where I was at that point in my life.
Yeah, and that's amazing, especially like I had mentioned for this point in your life too.
Yeah.
So I will be curious to see where the inevitable life changes in the next couple of years draw you and where that's going to bring your music.
Yeah.
I really want to see where you go with some of these extra elements that go along parallel to it as well. So I am curious for myself and for anybody out there that's watching, where should people follow Liam Thomson so that they're aware of what you're working on?
I'm on Instagram. I think it's just _ Liam Thomson. So it's pretty easy to find me. And TikTok, I have a page up there. They're all kind of interconnected. And I'm actually working on a website right now where you'll be able to kind of join all that stuff together and then branch off to whatever you use.
When you're ready for the launch of that too, definitely let me know. We'll put a little post out there just to send a couple people over in your direction.
Perfect.
And now, for anyone that hasn't had the opportunity to catch one of your live performances and perhaps hasn't already heard your debut, is there something you'd like to play off with today to give people a little sampling?
Yeah, for sure. I actually have a song that I'm working on right now. It's called... I usually am better at remembering the names of my songs. Hold on. This one is called Mine with a Y. So it's an interesting listen.
Is there a story behind the spelling there?
No, not really. I kind of just like the way it looked. That's the thing about like doing music and stuff. Like sometimes you'll have some things that are really deeply intentional, and then sometimes you'll just do stuff because it looks cool and because you like the way it looks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm kind of a mix of both. Like some stuff that I do is like, I'll plan this out for weeks, and it'll be like I'll be so excited to do it. Like I'll be working on it every day, and then it'll either work or it won't work, and I'll have to scrap it or reuse it. And then sometimes I'll just be like, that looks cool. I'm gonna use this for now.
Is there anything you want to tell the listeners about the song before we play off with it?
The instrumental is definitely my favorite that I've done so far. It's more of like it's in 6/8 time, so if you're a music geek like me, then you know that it's pretty circular, and it kind of resolves really nice into each bar. And it's the first time that I've actually done a lot of work on a bridge, because I'm more into like the catchy melodic stuff. But yeah, this one has a really cool bridge that I think you'll all like.
Amazing. Well, thank you for your time, and
Thanks for having
we'll
me.
definitely keep in touch over the next couple of years to make sure we know what's going on with Liam out there, and wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Sometimes I'm awkward, but nobody's sane. These meds from my doctor ain't working the same anymore. Yeah, I've been impatient and I've made mistakes. These walls I've been building, just holding the pain. I'm alone, and I'll be fine with it till it's mine again. Rising on the rise, getting close to 5, but to know that I was staying on my mind. Stuck inside Scott, telepathic power, left the ones behind. I don't stop to think, oh, she doesn't know it's like to draw the line. Wait a little while and I'll be first to cross. Think my ego got the best of the rest up for you. Thicker skin when it's just extras, me fake love for true. I could go for hours, but it is what it is and that's it. Maybe this could be the best love, I say something. Yeah, sometimes I'm awkward but nobody's sane. These meds from my doctor ain't working the same anymore. Yeah, I've been impatient and I've made mistakes. These walls I've been building, just holding the pain. I'm alone, and I'll be fine with it till you're mine again. Should've known, gets a flu over you until the moon. I should've known, gets a flu over you until the moon. I shots in the dark, fuck it up, bring it right back to me. You're locking up your heart for the last time. It's a tragedy. A blind man still speaks, but the deaf man can't hear. Sometimes I weep when I look in the mirror.